everybody, and welcome back to the Marketer's Blueprint podcast. I am your host, Nathan Gibson, and yet again I have with me Mr. Gabe Arnold. Gabe, how has your week been?
Fantastic. It's been extremely productive, and I've been learning crazy new things. And being productive and learning, I'm about as happy as I can get.
Yeah, it's been, I couldn't say it better myself. It's been a really good week. We had our State of the Business meeting yesterday as of recording this. Some really, really positive trends for the company and some really, really big wins for us internally. So I'm pumped for today. But today, guys, we have a really, really awesome episode planned for you where we're going to talk about re-engaging customers and helping increase your retention rate. So in my experience, it costs significantly less to retain an existing customer than acquire a new one. I'm sure you feel this way too, Gabe. In fact, your existing customers' revenue should total around 60 to 70% of your business's total revenue, while new business makes up the rest. So it's actually the vast majority is repeat business, which is something I learned actually pretty recently. And what that means is when a customer stops engaging with your brand, it can actually be a pretty costly loss when you lose that type of revenue. The good news is that when a customer disengages in such a way, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're gone for good, right? In fact, many are honestly just waiting for the right opportunity to re-engage with your brand. Give them a reason, and honestly, you'll be amazed at what happens. Re-engaging with our clients and prospects is crucial to us as a business. We live by a set of guiding principles, the first of which being relationships first. We put our relationships with our clients and prospects before anything else. All of that other stuff comes out after that. And so, with that being said, Gabe, I wanted to ask you, because I think this influences today's content a lot. What sparked you to create the guiding principles, and how has it impacted the growth of Business Marketing Engine?
Yeah, so I am really grateful. I had a friend, I think it's been 6 or 7 years, it's been a while, who said, we were kind of coaching each other in different areas of business. I was helping her with some marketing strategy, and she was, talking to me about some leadership and operational things. And she asked me, like, what are your guiding principles? And I was like, what do you mean? And I had no idea what she meant at the beginning, but she really was really gracious and helpful and broke down for me that I already had guiding principles. I already had things I lived by and operated by. But when we choose to write those down and externalize them to share them with our team, then we can all begin to make the same decisions from the same, principle basis. And when you can replicate decision making at a very high level and a very integrous level, then you have incredible leverage. And a lot of people who even do really, I would say, effectively have guiding principles inside their company. That's a smaller subset of business owners and entrepreneurs, honestly. A lot of people keep those internal and say, here's our principles. But when I created those, I made the decision that I wanted to be extremely transparent with them. And they're published, right on our website and have been for a long time.
Yeah.
Because I want to be held accountable to our guiding principles. I don't ever want them to be hidden or forgotten about. And so not only are they public, we talk about them here, we talk about them with our clients, and we talk about them every week as a team, because that's the way that you really bring life to something important like that. And so I didn't know that I already had principles that I lived by. I would venture to say that any successful business is living by a set of principles, but when you document them, talk about them, really embed them in your culture, and you externalize them, there is incredible leverage that can come for your business.
An incredible amount of leverage. I couldn't have said it better myself. And it's really, in my time here with you at BME, it's really developed a lot of my guiding principles as well, because they were already things that I did in my life, morals that I abided by. And once I put them and leveraged them into my career, it affected all avenues of my life. And I'm still very, very grateful for that. And there's none better to talk about than relationships first, because that's something that you've taught me professionally and personally can really, really benefit you. And it has a lot to do with what we're talking about today, because today we're going to be exploring the art of re-engaging with your clients and prospect. Really, it's the strategic moves that can really transform dormant customers into loyal brand advocates. And so I'm really, really excited to dive into that today. But first, of course, Gabe, it wouldn't be an episode without the marketing minute. And so we have a lot of stuff we've talked about so far, but I want to pause for a second to give you a minute to talk about something that's on your mind today.
I think in business, relates to marketing in so many different aspects in business, but it's really important to remember that if you don't create time for something, then it's not alive and it's not going to grow. And what I mean by that is if you don't schedule time in your calendar to work on writing your emails to the people on your list, not your list of these random, non-human numbers, the people on your list. If you schedule time for that, then you can do it. If you schedule time to sit down and observe what your community is doing, like what your audience is paying attention to, then it becomes a living part of your business. And so I would just really strongly encourage everybody, for anything that matters, put it in your calendar, hold yourself accountable to that, and use that time to really move forward. Because when we invest time and we intentionally open up and create space for things, amazing things can happen.
Yeah, and I love that because that actually has to do with my role here at BME and about re-engagement, which we're going to talk about. Every single time I have a good conversation with somebody and I want to touch base with them again, I set a task or put it in my calendar. Otherwise, I'll forget. I mean, I'm human, right? I have a lot of things to do. I'm a busy guy in the business, and so I'll forget. So keeping myself accountable in such a way is absolutely crucial as it pertains to re-engagement. So let's dive into it, Gabe. Let's dive into re-engagement. The first thing I wanted to say is the most typical re-engagement tool is, do you still want to hear from us email, right? The do you still want to hear from us email. But
Yeah.
it often lacks personality. It feels generic and it doesn't address the individual needs of your customers. So that's an example of what we try to shy away from. Can you maybe give us an example of a good re-engagement interaction that you've had, or a tool that you use for re-engagement?
Yeah, absolutely. Because you're right. Like sending a, hey, do you still want to hear from us? That's a transactional. Should you stay on my list? I'm paying some fractional penny for every email
Right.
you do or whatever. That's super transactional. And whether or not they click it or not, you're definitely not deepening the relationship. And if you don't deepen the relationship, there's no actual engagement. And so I had an amazing experience with a large software as a service company, SaaS company, a few weeks back, and I use an app just to support my son with all his electronics and all the things he plays and all the things he does, so that we can sit down and talk about, what are you into and what are you up to, and I'm just able to support him with that. And so I got a phone call, and I was in a meeting or something, so I didn't pick up the phone call, but I listened to the voicemail, and it was a customer service message from the app company. They're a huge app. It said, hey, we just want to check in with you. How's everything working with the app? Do you have any questions? Is there anything we can support you? And I was absolutely blown away. And I can tell you just from that one outreach that my impression of the company and my trust in the company skyrocketed. And I recommend them to all the parents out there that I know, and that it's been really valuable. I recommend it, and I recommend it
Yeah.
for that. But now I will always remember that, because a lot of times in many different industries, especially in a software as a service industry, they all say, like, how many subscribers do I have? What's the churn rate? Like, how do I do all these things? And they forget that there is a human on the other side of that, that if they are willing to invest time and build a relationship with, they will, the other person will get much more value because they know you care. And so that's the number one thing I would tell people is, if you're not creating a process to regularly have conversations with your clients, your customers, I don't care what industry you're in, you need to pick up the phone and call them or get on a video.
Yeah.
Like, that is a core, operational principle that we follow here is, if you're a client of ours, we have regular meetings with you so we can support you. Whether or not you're buying something that technically or functionally would need, a live conversation is irrelevant to us. If you're a client, you're getting on calls with us because that's how we deepen the relationship. That's how we support you. That's how we hear about the little nuanced details that our team, can pick up and go, oh, like, you have this going on in another area of the business. We have this great tool. Why don't we just send that over to you? Or we hear about challenges that are going on and we can create support. And so just having a live conversation, I don't care what business you're in, it doesn't matter what industry you're in.
It
That is the
doesn't.
number one thing I would recommend, is do that, whether or not you've done that before. And then you will likely uncover some challenges or problems in those conversations if you haven't been doing it regularly. And that's a good thing, because then you can figure out how to solve them. You can learn about what your customers are experiencing. Again, I don't care if you're a supplement company, a SaaS company, it doesn't matter what industry you're in. Pick up the phone, call your customers, let them know that you appreciate them. And if you don't appreciate them, that's okay. I've been in that season. It was not productive where I just was treating everybody as a number. My business didn't grow, surprisingly. But if you're
Shocker.
if you aren't bringing awareness to that, then that's the number one thing I would say is pick up the phone, have a conversation with them, and make a habit of that. And then from there, it's very easy and natural, and it is a relationship building step to send an email out. And if you were one of my customers, or even just a person on my list that I want to connect with, if I'm doing that and I send an email, hey Nathan, how's things going, or here's a resource, that is such a deeper connection and communication, because you've actually spent the time to connect with people.
Yeah, and I think your example is really important to dive into, right? So this is a company or a service, a SaaS service that you are already enjoying. You already liked it. You already promoted it. You were like, hey, I like it.
Yeah.
Then they furthered that by reaching out to you, even though, like you said, they're a big company. They're not strapped for cash, and they have lots of customers. You're just one of
Yep.
many, right?
Oh,
But
yeah.
they engaged with you like a person. And that, like, you were already like 75%, let's say arbitrary number,
Yeah.
75%, like, I like this company, I'm good. That took you over 100%. You were like, that builds trust, that builds authenticity, and it actually goes right into what I was going to say next, and this one's really, really important for me. They connected with you with genuine intention.
Yeah,
This
absolutely.
is something you have taught me over the years really, really well. Remember, like you said, your audience is made up of real human beings and individual people.
Yeah.
They can sense when you're just going through the motions or just, doing things you feel like are arbitrary or you have to. So, what we recommend is to approach re engagement with a genuine desire to reconnect and provide value. I work very heavily in sales, right? And so I'm not expecting to call and sell somebody something. I'm calling to build a genuine relationship with them and serve them well. That goes for the first call, that goes for the second call, that goes for the 100th call. Every single time I pick up that phone, I want to provide value, information, resources, and continue to build a genuine connection because that will come back to pay your business tenfold, right?
Absolutely, yeah. When you just focus on really serving people and putting good out into the world, it's really easy to be financially healthy. If you're focused on transactions and how much can I squeeze out of somebody in the first conversation or the first
Yeah.
landing page, or they bought, they buy the first offer and then you try to upsell them, 10 more times, which I have been in those funnels, um, or been in those conversational funnels where people are like, oh, you got this now you need this. That's
Mm.
just a great way to dehumanize that relationship, because you likely, in almost all those cases, you haven't spent enough time to know who that person is, what they need.
Nope.
Um, and that just becomes very transactional. But if you're willing to just really show up with the attitude and the intention of how can I serve this person at the highest level, even if that means I'm referring them to another company, which I've done plenty of times,
Yeah.
like no attachment, that's when you really put, good karma out into the world, and it always comes back. And I have people that I have helped that have never paid me money that have sent me tons and tons of clients.
Oh yeah.
They knew that they could send somebody to me, and they know at the deepest level that I will do what's best for that person, and that it's not about squeezing money out of somebody.
Yeah, and I think that's really, really important because, like, something I try to do in my everyday role is keep things personal, right? When I'm talking to people, if they, I pick up on the subtle cues. If they say, oh, my dog is being loud, I'm sorry. I'll be like, oh, I love dogs. What's his or her name? And I'll connect with them and try and bring out their personality because
Yeah,
I think that's so important in sales. And I think this has to do a lot with sales because a lot of people say that they don't like sales because they're approaching sales from the wrong perspective. If
yeah,
you approach sales in the way of showing up and serving people and doing your best, the revenue will come in. It is how Business Marketing Engine was built.
absolutely.
We've never involved ourselves in any scummy sales tactics or upsell opportunities or all these things you hear in sales. It's BS. I mean, it really is. And we're in an era too, Gabe. I was just talking to Mark about this the other day of we have to sell without selling these days. And there's no easier way to do that than just building a connection with somebody. Like
Yeah,
I said, one thing that's really important to me is keeping things personal. Writing a checking in email. Hey Gabe, I heard you were having some issues with your dog the other day. How's that been going? Is there anything I can do for you? Like, is there any support that I can provide? Or say that he just went and went snowboarding. I know Gabe does that from time
yeah,
to time, and I'll be like, "How was your snowboarding trip? How did that go?" I'm coming at it with the intention of building a relationship with that person while also, of course, seeing if there's anything that I can do to serve them, but it's not with the intention to just sell them because that just doesn't work anymore, right, Gabe?
Yeah, just like in like the societies that we live in around the world, and especially here in the United States, like our society is too sophisticated at this point for you to be able to pull off old world or old school or old style sales tactics of, you know, scripted questions, and I just need to, dig into your pain and see how much pain I can get you
Ugh.
to realize and buy. And we've talked about, I mean, that just creates tons of problems when sales is service, and it always has been. And there's been trends and things that happen where people think you can go a different way, and none of those companies last. But if you're truly saying, how do we serve our audience, which is your prospects, your non-buyers, then out of that you build trust, and then you'll have customers that come through and continue to serve them, and then they tell everybody in your audience and other audiences and spaces, and this company, this person, they take amazing care of me. I love the service, love the product. Then you're really, really spreading the goodwill and good brand about your company. And so if you have to be willing to play the long game and
Yeah.
not be coming from a place of neediness and, just focusing on the transactional dollars. Because even if you are really skilled or you have some crazy offer that's working, if that's the intention behind it, you'll never retain those people because you'll have created a relationship at a very shallow place from a foundation of this is transactional. I don't care about you. You don't need to care about me. And so the life of that relationship from a business standpoint is going to be shorter, and the depth and quality of the money you receive is going to be shallow.
It just feels bad.
Yeah, it's
It
just
really does,
not.
right? Like I don't know, it just feels bad because when you're showing up and serving people with a true place of the right intentions, not only do you do a good thing and people care about good people. Most people in the world, right? Of course there's some exceptions, but most people care about just being a kind, down to earth good person. And so I think that one thing society has gotten away from and is realizing that now is like when you're selling something to somebody, it doesn't have to be just because you need that sale, you need that revenue for your business. It's because you're passionate about what you're selling and you want to promote that, but you can do that in a healthy way. You don't have to just be so focused on just the numbers and not viewing people as people that it's almost not worth it to get a sale like that, right? And especially as we're talking about re-engaging and keeping customers for their entire lifespan with you, the more you show up with intention with them of really trying to serve them and make their life better by the product that you or service that you're providing, the longer that they're going to be with you. Because of course, we've talked about this many times. Entrepreneurs become entrepreneurs to get freedom of time and freedom of money. But what is also the third one that you're in the phase of really is impact. Being able to impact people's lives. We're not a marketing agency because we want to make money. We're a marketing agency because we're a bunch of people who are passionate about marketing and we love helping people and we put our relationships first. So I really think that it's super important to just be a human being when you're trying to engage or re-engage with your prospects. And that actually leads me to something that I wanted to talk to you about. It is another way that you can get in touch with people, especially when you're in the re-engagement phase, is sharing personal stories. People connect with stories. We talked about like selling without selling. One of the easiest ways to do that is storytelling. Is sharing experiences. That is your like hidden power. We just talked about that on a sales meeting earlier this week, and it's something I'm learning too. Is like share your own experiences, your challenges, or especially your successes to build rapport with your audience and create a sense of authenticity, something tangible. So, Gabe, how over the years have you grown comfortable with sharing your personal experiences in a business setting?
Yeah, it's been a journey, and I would, you know, I wouldn't be honest if I said that that was just something I knew from day one. And I
Yeah,
really think that it's a big part of the entrepreneurial journey, the small business owner's journey, is to realize that you don't give yourself any competitive advantage by trying to show up different than you are, or bigger than you are in an unhealthy way. There is a healthy way to position with authenticity that we can figure this out, we can do it. But I had a season that I look back on that was very valuable. I'm glad I went through it. I'll never repeat it again. But I went through a season where I was around some, you know, people that I don't consider entrepreneurs at this point, unfortunately, who made it all about being flashy and pretending that they were super wealthy and pretending they had all this huge success. And I actually modeled that for a little bit. And um, surprise, surprise, it didn't work for two reasons. One, it wasn't very attractive, meaning like from a marketing standpoint, it didn't really attract that many people quantity wise. The people it did attract, I attracted the wrong thing because they were
Right.
hard to work with because they were in a season two where they were looking at shallow stuff and not looking at the long term. And it just ended up being painful, lots of loss. I am grateful for the season because I learned a ton, and I
Right.
did inside of that space in that community I was in. I found some lifelong friends, so it all worked out great, as I think our path does. But that experience really drove home for me because it was a little bit of a detour, and sometimes detours are valuable. It drove home to me that the most significant things I have ever created are truly just my stories. One of the first books I wrote was about my friendship with my best friend, who I was friends with since I was like toddler, baby, or whatever, super young. And he died really young from a condition called spina bifida. He died at like 24 or 25. That
Yeah.
was like the first book I wrote and published, and it connected with my whole audience in this business I was running. And it made me feel good, and it was scary. It was very scary to write that and publish because it was
Of
very
course, right?
personal and very challenging to walk through that. But that was a highlight I can look back at and say, like, man, that really helped other people because they understood like what I went through, and all of us have experienced some kind of loss or are going to experience loss at that level in our life, and it really connected, and they understood that I was just another part of the community. It was a local kind of community business, and they were like, man, like this is a real person. I was running a business to serve that this local community that I live in in that season, and they saw I was a real person, and so sharing all that challenge was helpful. And so when it comes to telling personal stories, it's so important that we just say who we really are and what we're really experiencing. And that gives us the opportunity to talk about the real wins. Like
Yeah.
wins we have on the show are deep and authentic, and everybody listening knows because they're real. Just like everybody knows when you write some, fake story or you stretch it way beyond what was real, everybody knows. They just know instantly. We can all feel that stuff. We have such deep intuition as humans, whether we consciously feel it or not, it's always there. And so when we make up a story, we damage our brand. But when we're willing just to say, here's what I
Yeah.
am at, or here's this awesome conversation I had with a client or a friend or somebody I was helping, then people get a little window into what it's like being in your space and being in relationship with you and your company. And the right people go, oh, that's for me. And the wrong people go, wow, that was weird. I don't like that. And they'll move away. And that's awesome. That
That's
is a
great.
double value for it because there's people that are in a different season and space that I totally respect that may hear about some of our guiding principles and say, I don't want any of that. That is the reason they're there. The reason they're to help people move to something that's good for them. And I'm
Right.
serving them by helping them move away. And it's attracting the people that are like, yeah, I want to work with somebody that is committed to the relationship, that cares about me, cares about my company, cares about the impact in the world I'm trying to make, and is willing to invest in the relationship. And I think about one more thing on this. I think about um, 13 years ago, I moved back to east of Cleveland, Ohio from Chicago, and I had gone through some pretty hard business lessons and gone through a bunch of stuff living in Chicago. And when I came back, there was two people that believed in me and were willing to bet on me, and they saw who I was and were willing to invest in the relationship. My business attorney at the time, who is a lifelong friend now, and my CPA. They were like, man, this guy's been through some rough stuff. We're going to invest in the relationship. We're going to work out payments or figure stuff out or trade some services because I can see where he's at and I've been there and I want to help. And I
Yeah.
have now become, customers of theirs and will be as long as they're in business, period, end of story. Like that's the depth of investment they made in me by just believing me and saying like, where are you at right now and how can I help you? And they have clients for life. I'm not the only one. That's how they show up. And
Oh
they
yeah.
taught me a lot about our first guiding principle of it's relationships first, and we can work out everything else after that.
That's exactly right. And I wanted to share something too when it comes to sharing personal stories, right? I think that business owners are entrepreneurs, and you've been in this season too, I think, when you said like you were in the wrong circles, in the wrong attitude and
Yeah.
headspace. I think that business owners and entrepreneurs get scared of sharing failures because they think that the market that they're serving will view it as a weakness when that is the complete opposite. It is a
Yeah.
strength. It is an advantage, and it helps you connect on the human level, which is so important with the level of intuition we have as a society today. I actually did a presentation, oh my gosh, Gabe, maybe about a year ago now on failures as stepping stones to successes. And it's the story of your life, it's the story of my life, and it is the story of all of your lives. It truly is. None of us would be who we are today without our failures and our successes combined. Nobody will ever lead a life full of 100% successes. It's impossible. It's impossible. It's the human condition. We're born to try, fail again, get back up, and succeed. That is how business works. That's how life works. And if you're willing to share that with people who you're trying to serve them with your products or your services, they will connect with that. And that is why we are open and transparent as a business when we engage with people on things we've been through, things we've learned. And it also creates a level of authority. I know what I'm talking about because I've been through it. I've walked that path. That's how we speak to entrepreneurs and business owners every day, is we understand what they've been through and we want to help solve their pain. Another great point which you made earlier is something I think people should move away from, is digging in on pain. It is not the way to go. You can establish it like, it's here, right? Your pain is here. I know it is. Let me help and take it apart. Let me help solve it. Not dig into it like you need to do this or this pain will be here forever. Here are tools and resources that will help solve the pain. You're not going to have open heart surgery with no tools. Your surgeon is not going to go in with just their bare hands and try to make things work and dig in, you know what I mean? They're going to go in there and surgically extract things that are wrong and fix the problems. That's what every single business does, or what they should achieve or strive to achieve, is going in and solving people's pain rather than digging into it to get a sale. And so I think that's really, really important, Gabe. And so with that being said, we've had a lot of really great conversation, but it wouldn't be an episode of the Marketer's Blueprint without talking about some wins. So we've had a really great conversation, but I do want to talk about our win of the week. So recently, we delivered a major win for our client in the health and fitness industry. After implementing some strategic optimizations, we've helped them achieve their first positive ROI of 49% this month, which is a dramatic turnaround from the negative ROI a couple of months ago. Gabe, I know you actually just recently had, if I remember correctly, a great conversation with this client about this awesome win. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, something I always remind all the team here at BME about, and we all know this, but we keep it at the front of our mind, is that the vast majority of clients that choose to partner with us have been through some really tough experiences with other marketing and technology services companies like ours, because of a various number of reasons. But one of the key reasons is that there's a lot of companies out there, just the facts are that they don't invest in relationships first, and so they don't understand how to serve their clients at the highest level like we do. And it's taken me some years to get here. Like I said earlier, I made a lot of mistakes on that front, and everybody's on their own journey as an entrepreneur. But because of how a lot of things kind of have trended in the marketing and technology spaces, can be highly transactional. And so our client, from SixPax Gym, he has experienced years of negative marketing, meaning like he's invested in marketing and not made money. He's invested in marketing and people don't spend the time to get to know his business, his values, his principles. And they don't spend the time to understand, truly who he wants to serve, his audience. But because we always start our processes like this way and have for years, we always start by building a customer-centric marketing foundation, so that we go out and we research and we talk to, through many different methods, we talk to the audience he serves and we talk to his customers. And so we truly understood the pain points of his customers at the depth that he did and beyond, because that process in the beginning is about our team fully understanding the audience and the customers and how they need to be served, and deepening the understanding that our client has of their customer base. So we started there, and then we began the process of launching very targeted, specific campaigns that speak to the exact needs and goals and desires and lifestyle of his customers. And so we start that process and we walked through it and we were building everything up. And I was very closely watching it and tracking it, as I do with so many of our clients, campaigns. And he reached out to me a few weeks ago and he said, I want to switch direction. I don't want to continue the marketing. Like, things aren't working. And so I responded back and I said, I'm so glad that you came to me and let me know that you're concerned, you're frustrated, you have this anxiety. I said, I've been watching everything very closely. I'm going to do a deep dive again to make sure I have all the stats, all the numbers, and make sure that you're in good shape. And then we're going to meet. We're going to talk this through because, of course, this is relationships first. So when I did that and evaluated all his numbers, I saw that he was trending exactly where we targeted and wanted him to be, and that even as he had reached out, he hadn't gotten his last campaign performance reports, and he had to look internally with his team for the sales that were coming in, and we found that he had trended from where before we came on board with him to serve him, he was not making positive ROI in his marketing, and that's what he asked us to solve. And so he came on and corrected things, and he went from negative ROI of like 30, 40, 50% essentially. So he would put ad dollars out there for advertising and they would have no return of sales. That was a simple explanation of what happens. So we solved that and fixed that. And then I pulled up his numbers and said, here's where you're at. You're making 49% here this month, and you're already trending for even higher the next month, so that you're going to be able to establish a 2x return on your ad spend, your investment, your marketing investment. If you put $1,000 in, you are almost at the point in a short time, less than 90 days. You are at the point where you're going to get $2,000 back for every $1,000 you put in. And so I had the conversation and talked him through that and let him know that myself and the entire team here is fully committed to his growth and success, and we are fully committed to serving him. And he, in that conversation, he said, "Thank you so much, Gabe." He's like, "I am all good." He's like, "I just was at a place where I was nervous and had anxiety because at every other company I've worked with, for marketing, I got to this point and I was losing money and they didn't care and they made me pay their whole contract for not doing any work, basically." And I said, "I totally understand it. And that's why I'm glad you told me you were nervous and scared, because that's normal. All of us entrepreneurs face that. And that's why I want to sit down with you and make sure you understand where you're at. And then it's always your choice. It's always our client's choice what they do." But after that call, it was such a great experience, because the investment in the relationship, we were able to build trust, and dollars and cents, he is ahead of where he was, and he is now trending to exactly where our clients should be at the end of the first year. At the end of our first year, we're about halfway through with this client in his first year with BME, and that's always an awesome year, a lot of learning, and we get to build a lot of trust and help them let go of that traumatic experience they had with other vendors.
Yeah.
The end of this year, he's going to turn the dial and get more customers. That's all we want. But it takes work, and it's a process, and we don't ever deviate from the course unless the client is insistent, and then we inform them. But we always get results when we follow the process. We invest in the relationship with the client, and we help our clients deeply invest in their relationship with their prospects, their audience, and their customers, and everything else works out well because we have world-class experts to deliver the skills and all the results they need.
That's so awesome. And if you think about it, in another world or another life, if you didn't show up and serve and really show up with the right intention of, the decision is in your hands, but I want to let you know how things are going and how dedicated we are to your project, we could have lost him. And he would have lost trust in us and potentially in marketing agencies forever, especially since what he's been through. And so what I love about you, Gabe, is you're never above it. You own the company, but you'll sit down and meet with anybody to show that we're doing our best for them, to show them what we actually are doing behind the scenes, to give them some knowledge, some education, and reassure them as a fellow business owner. Because like you said, a lot of business owners and entrepreneurial people get really scared at that point. They're worried. They've made a lot. Maybe they've made a lot of investments that didn't pan out before, and so they're just tremendously nervous and scared that'll happen again. But you went in and reassured him, showed him the numbers, and showed him where we're going to take this. And he left the call ecstatic, extremely happy. And so that just goes to show how important relationships first is. And so with that, guys, if you liked the video, throw it a thumbs up for us. It really helps us out a lot. Share it with your friends. We'd love to have more people see our bright and smiling faces. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel over on YouTube. We put a new podcast out every Friday, and we would love to have you join the family. And also, we talk about this all the time. If you want a team of dedicated experts working around the clock for your business success, check the link below and you can book a call with me. I would love to learn more about what business goals you have, what struggles you've been facing, and kind of share some of our experiences as well. And then finally, if you'd like to join our free newsletter, we put out awesome tips and resources and strategies to help grow your business. So there will be a link below for that as well, wherever you get your podcasts. So Gabe, it has been an excellent podcast episode today. It was a pleasure to see you, and I will see all of you next time.
See you, everyone.